Karen Bugingo, and I'm 26 years old, and I'm currently pursuing a degree in journalism and communication at the University. My story starts 6 years ago when I was just a normal teenager in school. At the time, I was at Lycée de Kigali. Anyone went to Lycée? Yeah. The girl has to be someone went to Lycée. So I was at Lycée, and I was joining my final year at 6. And I just had a normal life like every other teenager. I went out, I loved parties, I loved my friends. Basically, I had a normal life. And during the holidays of, the long holidays when you're coming from one year to the other, usually around November. So that is when I started getting sick, and I couldn't walk right, I was having complications. And of course, the normal thing to do was to go see a doctor. So I went to see a doctor, and from there, that's when everything just started escalating. My health was just going all sorts of wrong. And obviously, I had to drop out of school. So you can imagine having to drop out of school when you're just starting your final year. So I was excited to start my final year, and I was excited of what was going to come. I really had ambitious dreams. I had dreams to go study abroad. I had already applied to some universities. I was already in senior 5, but I had applied to some universities in the States. And so I was really an ambitious person. I had big dreams. So when I started getting sick, my first thing was to drop out of school. So you can imagine with that kind of ambitious attitude, dropping out of school completely destroyed me. And on top of my health going wrong and having to drop out of school, those two were not going well emotionally for me at the time. And so there I am, at 19 years old, I've dropped out of school. My friends obviously are moving on, and I'm just on social media seeing everybody getting hyped, seeing everybody living life. So when I dropped out of school, it's because I had to go seek treatment around. I first went to Nairobi because it was the closest place I would go, and that's because in Rwanda they had really failed to get a diagnosis. And so I went to Nairobi, saw a couple of doctors, nothing came up, still no diagnosis. Meanwhile, I'm losing a lot of weight, and physically I'm not well at all. Emotionally, it's another story. So I got to Nairobi. There's no treatment for me. I have to come back to Rwanda. And so through all that, I'm trying to stay positive, look at the good picture. I'm traveling, doing some fun things amid this all. It was my first time in Nairobi, so I was like, okay, this is an opportunity, at least I get to see Nairobi, So trying to find the good in whatever I was going through. And so from there, I came back to Kigali, and I started going through doctors, King Faisal, every hospital in Rwanda at the time. That was 2013. I had been there. And so after 5 or 4 months of no results, just my health becoming worse and worse, my family decided that I should probably go to India. Because growing up, we all know that everybody talks about India this, India that. And so I'm kind of fast forwarding through the story so that I have time to talk about the journey after and the book. So, so I got to India. That was in September, early first week of September. That's when I got to India. I googled hospitals. I had information from people who had been there, and I met a doctor. But first of all, when I went to India, I didn't know which doctor to see, because the way it is in India, you know how here we have generalists. You just go see a doctor when you have a headache, and then if it's worse, he'll direct you to another doctor. But in India, it's not like that. If you go there, they ask you what is wrong with you, so they can refer you to a specialist. They only have specialists. So when I get there and they ask me what is wrong with you so we can refer you to a specialist, I didn't know what to say. Because in order that they were diagnosed with so many different things that were not right. So because I was having problems with my stomach, I was not eating well, my first thing I said, I was like, maybe a doctor for stomach pains, ulcers, a doctor in that field. So I went to see her. She was a woman, and she ran tests, many tests, and after about 3 to 4 days, I come back to her, and she looks at me. She's like, no, actually, I didn't meet her. I met her receptionist. So the receptionist looks at us, and she's like, your doctor has referred you to an oncologist. So this is 2013. I'm from Rwanda. I've never heard this in my life. Someone tells me I need to see an oncologist. In my mind, I was like, do you mean a gynecologist? Because those rhyme, yeah? That is what I had heard. So in my mind, I was like, what is an oncologist? Because if we look at Rwanda 6 years ago, nobody talked about cancer. I didn't know anyone who had cancer. So it was it was new to me. So he's like, you have to see an oncologist. In my mind, I'm like, okay, well, let's go see what that doctor does. So on my way there, we meet this man who's in charge of African international patients. Because the way it is in India, again, there's someone who's in charge of African international patients. So I see him, and he's of course explaining who an oncologist is and what they do. And in my mind, I'm like, wait, like pause. So if I'm to see an oncologist, a doctor for cancer, does that mean I have cancer? So imagine at 19 years old, you get that kind of news. So it was too much to deal with at that time. I didn't believe it at first. I was like, first of all, I didn't know cancer was a thing. I didn't know people actually have cancer in real life. Because growing up, we all watched movies. Cancer was for the movies and not for real people, yeah? So that's the way we grew up. Yeah, in Rwanda, that was really our kind of cancer. So fast forward, I went to see the doctor and I was put on chemotherapy. So chemotherapy is the treatment for cancer which has tons and tons of side effects. One of the side effects is losing your hair. So the first thing that happens to you is you lose your hair. So again, you can imagine a young lady at 19 years old who your looks is the only thing that you care about. You lose your hair. So that emotionally puts you in a very tough situation. Adding to you having to drop out of school, adding to too many things. So you can imagine, at that time, I don't want to talk to anyone, I don't want to see anyone. My hair is shedding off, your nails are turning black, and so many other things that come with the treatment. So after that, I was in India for 2 months, and I had to come back to Rwanda. And I had to come back to Rwanda because living in India, I was staying at a hotel, kind of a hotel apartment situation. So I had to come back home because it was not financially wise to stay there. And we had gotten news that in Rwanda, they don't treat cancer, but you can take your medication here. There's proper protocol to take your medication, the chemotherapy, because it requires some sort of protocol of how you take it, the dosage and stuff. So there were nurses here who were trained for those kind of things. So I come back to Rwanda and I start taking my medication. And 6 months later, I have to go back to India to see my doctor so he can run more tests and confirm what is going on with me. But physically, you could see that there was an improvement. I was eating better, gaining a bit of weight. By then, I was weighing like 45 kgs because of not eating well, the treatment itself. So there was many things that led me to the weight loss. So again, as a teenage girl, losing all that weight was not easy for me. I didn't see, most of my friends didn't come to visit me in that 6 months because I had insecurities, I didn't like the way I felt, and among many other reasons why I was uncomfortable. Um, so after 6 months, I go back to India, and my doctor runs all the tests, which are many tests, painful ones, and I go back to his office. He looks through and he tells me that the chemotherapy was successful and that I'd been cancer free. And so from that point on, my first reaction was, I need to get my life back, I need to go back to school, I need to catch up with life, where life left me, I need to jump on it and get moving. The reality is it wasn't as easy as it sounded in my mind. So after that, I tried to get back to school. It was not easy to just jump right into school after almost 2 years of not catching up with school. So for me, in my mind, I wanted to just go back to S6, keep moving, like, let life continue moving where I left it. But that was not the case. People had moved on, and I could not jump back to S6. Even my school would not allow me to just jump back into S6, because everybody knows S6 is a tough year to just jump in. So my school tells me that I need to go back to S4. Mind you, I was 21 by then. So telling a 21-year-old that she needs to go back to S4 so that she can continue with school, I was like, no, it's not happening. Of course, my parents were like, just try it. But for me, I was like, so if I go to S4 at 21, that means I'll finish at 25. That means, so for me, it was like, I was really keen on not doing that. So I went online. I went on the internet, which was my space by then, because always online, always on the internet doing stuff in my little world. And I find out this thing called the GED, where people get high school equivalent certificates to do their university. So I do that quick thing on the internet, and I'm able to get a high school equivalent certificate, which allowed me to join uni. But of course, I'm kind of skipping I'm fast forwarding to how that was not easy as well, getting the application done. But one of the lessons I learned from that was not giving up. Commitment, giving up. Because if I would have given up and saw my life as a failed life and just accept that whatever happened to me, so I'm just supposed to sit there and let life move on and I'll just be here. But I was motivated to get my life back. So no matter what had happened to me, I knew that I had to get back up, do what I had to do to move forward and catch up with those that had left me. And so a few years later, I'm in school, life has kind of moved on, but I'm not at peace with not sharing my story. I had gone through a lot in a period of 2 years, and I was looking at my fellow young people who do not know about all these things that I've gone through. I could talk to my friends about what I went through, but I wouldn't get it on a deeper level. So not only had I been through cancer and gone through the journey, but I had also acquired knowledge of what this sickness is, what it does to people, and how it can also be prevented. It's not easy because till now nobody really knows what causes cancer. Some people get treated, some people don't, but at least I knew I had to do my part and share with my community, share with my random people how my journey and the experiences. I was mostly motivated by the things out here. For example, for some reason, I feel like it was God trying to talk to me. For some reason, I would be sitting with a bunch of people that I don't know, and someone would be like, so and so had cancer, and of course, and someone would talk about like a family member or a friend. They'll be like, oh, so and so had cancer, but you know how that goes, like we have to say bye. So that kind of, so you can see that kind of myth that has been put on cancer. It's more like your family member gets cancer, the family says bye. So there's no hope, there's no motivating the patient, there's no, basically there's information that is not out there, that actually cancer can be treated if you take the patients to ABC. So there's this all this knowledge that I knew, and I had to share with people. One of the things I also do is I'm a cancer advocate. I work with an NGO called Run the Children Cancer Relief, and it's an NGO that focuses on childhood cancers. So one of the things, there are actually cancers that only attack young kids, and so that NGO focuses on that. And so we've been doing a lot of advocacy, talking to parents mostly, because we believe that they play the biggest role in the recovery of their children. So in doing that, I've really got to learn to share my story, talk to people, and improve the health. I'm not a doctor, obviously, but I believe sharing my story will somehow add to the changes, or to inform people about their health and about cancer. And so 3 years later, I'm recovered, life is moving on. I decide, first of all, my uncle tells me, you know, Karen, you have all this journey, you've been through these experiences, you need to share your story, you need to write a book. And so in my mind, I think of writing a book, and it sounds impossible. First of all, I loved writing I started writing when I was in senior 4, but the longest thing I've written is probably 2 pages. So in my mind, yeah, that's how bad it was. That was the longest thing I'd come to write, and that is blogs. If you know what blogs are, so those were the longest things I could write. So in my mind, writing an entire book looked impossible. It was something that looked really impossible. And so, and also coming from Rwanda, we don't have a lot of authors who we could look up to, who make it look like it's possible to do. We always have to look at the Western people, and we all think, the Western, they're able, they've been taught these things. The list goes on. So we're discouraged by that. But so I was encouraged by my family to write this book, and I wrote this book for a period of 3 years, and it has not been the easiest, of course. There's a lot that goes with writing a book. There is commitment, because if you wake up and you don't write, or you wake up and you open your email and they're editors. I had to work with editors. If you're a writer, you know that your biggest enemy is an editor. Because they'll look at your book and they'll look at what you've written, they're like, so chapter 4 and chapter 6 and chapter 4 and chapter 5, you need to redo the whole thing. So for you, you feel like, I have killed this, like, she's not gonna tell me anything. And I was working with a British lady, so you can imagine. So I would wake up and I'd feel like, oh, I've killed it. She's not gonna tell me anything. This is as perfect I can write. And then in the afternoon, I get a message from her. She's like, so chapter 4, redo the whole chapter. I was like redo the whole, like entire. Okay. Got it. So that was not easy. But of course, I knew that was for the better of the book, for the book to come out. So through that, I learned hard work. I committed myself to working hard towards making this book a reality. When I started writing the book, it was not easy, also emotionally, to go back to my story in order to write it. And the first few chapters, as I was writing, my editors would tell me that you feel like you're not sharing enough, you feel like you're holding back. And obviously, emotionally, I was holding back because there's some things I didn't want to revisit, which I had to revisit in order to write. So I had to seek help. I went through counseling. I did it for 6 months. A lot of our culture don't encourage us to talk to professionals, but sometimes it's really important to talk to someone in order to heal from something so that you can impact someone's life through your healing. So I went through counseling in order to write this book completely the way I want my brothers and sisters to read it and be inspired. Because if I'm sharing a message of hope and courage and I'm not giving it all and saying it all, that will not be effective. So I went through counseling, I came out, I was better refreshed. I actually started rewriting the book right after counseling because I felt like I was in a better position to write the book. So after 3 years, the book was almost done, ready for publishing, and we had, of course, challenges when the book was done. I worked with Imagine Me, they're my publishers, so I took them the manuscript, and we had to redo the manuscript over and over and over, so it was not easy. So at the end of, as well, we faced challenges, and most of anyone who's, like my brother has shared, anyone who started a business or started something like writing, the first challenge you meet is a financial challenge. We had a budget of 4 million. It doesn't sound like a lot of money, but for a 25-year-old in school, it's a lot. 4 million is a lot of money. And so I started approaching sponsors here and there. And sometimes you talk to a sponsor and you feel like, man, I've got the idea of a lifetime. There's no way they're going to turn me back. But some companies will tell you this and that, and you just walk out and go to the next, go to the next. So again, I didn't give up on that. Every day I had a sponsor to see this and this and this, cancer organization, ABCD. We were talking about the book, we were sending out on social media, coming soon, my name is live. So through that, we got a lot of attention from the media, from everyone around who was excited about the idea. And I did a lot of, basically I put myself out there, even though the book was not yet out. Even the editing was not finished, but I had so much hope in seeing it come to life that I just put myself out there so that I can gain financial help, even if the book was not entirely done, editing and everything. And so in a period of 3 to 4 months, we were approached by different organizations who were interested, and from there we took off. We started printing the book, and that's again more work involved into publishing the book, into seeing it come to life. So one of the many lessons I've picked from writing this book and seeing it finish and to where it is right now is a lot of determination, hard work, and commitment. If you have those two and the passion of what you're doing, whatever you're doing will eventually come to life. So I wrote this book not only to raise cancer awareness, which is also one of the many reasons I published it, but also to raise hope in people that if I did it, you can do it.